The Batteries Included podcast is brought to you with United Chargers and their Grizzly range. The next generation of Grizzly is here. Meet the Grizzly Ultimate, the most powerful AC Level 2 charger for home use. With a maximum current of 80 amps, that's 19.2 kilowatts. Your vehicle could be charged up to twice as fast as a standard level 2 and up to 15 times faster than a level 1. And of course, it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can take control of your home charging, view stats, set a charging schedule, take part in demand response programs, and control your charger remotely. And that joins the lineup alongside the original Grizzly Classic. The Grizzly Duo, designed to charge two vehicles at the same time. The Grizzly Mini, a portable charging station. And the Grizzly Smart, a revolutionary smart EV charger. Those chargers can adjust the current from 16 amps up to 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts. Plus, the Grizzly Ranger IP67 rated, built in Canada, and with the highest quality materials. You can order yours right now. Go to unitedchargers.com, that's unitedchargers.com. Hello and welcome. This is the Batteries Included podcast. Today is Friday, November 22nd, episode 64 if you're counting. On today's show, big reveal of the Hyundai Ioniq 9, Kia updated EV6, and EV9 gets a GT version. Ram are going to push back the Rev and the Ramcharger just slightly. We get more details of the STLA frame platform, though, and much, much more. What a busy week. I'm your host, Martin Lee, from the EV News Daily podcast. Joining us today is the ineffable Mr. Tom Malogany, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge, and has been racking up the air miles lately, I think it's fair to say. Joining us today is Dominic Yoni, longtime EV journalist and host of the YouTube channel Drive Electric with Dominic. And before we get into it, for those paying attention, we did mention on our midweek show, our car buying advice show, Battery Bargains, we were going to have Scout Motors booked on the show today, and they had to postpone until next week after we told you that on Wednesday. So next week, Scout will join us to talk all things Traveller and Terra. It's going to be brilliant. Make sure you join us next week. Actually, for the last bit of the show, we often start with a guest, but he'll join us for the end. And we are allowed to ask about things like, you know, how many vehicles are people going for and speccing, and they said they'll tell us what we asked. Now, we will get into the weeds of that next week. But first, the LA Auto Show is in full gear, and the big debut on this one has to be the Hyundai Ioniq 9. The concept was named 7, S-E-V-E-N, but that does sound like it's too worse than a Kia EV9. So then they renamed it the EV9 and the Ioniq 9. Very similar vehicles, not identical, sharing a platform. The battery is a bit bigger, actually. No, it's a lot bigger. It's 110.3 kilowatt hours compared to 99.8 on the Kia. Projected EPA range is 335 miles for the long-range rear-wheel drive. DC charging 10 to 80, 24 minutes. Same as the EV9, but like I said, bigger battery. Now, rear motor, 160 kilowatt, front motor, 70 kilowatt, same as the Kia. But the performance all-wheel drive models have the big motor on both axles, and it will still propel what's a massive vehicle, 5.2 seconds, 0 to 62 miles an hour, 0 to 100 kph. Now, the styling very much leans into current Hyundai pixel theme, like we've seen in the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6. And let's get into it, because when I first saw it, I thought that side-on view, that side profile, it didn't land immediately for me, but over the last 48 hours or so, yeah, I'm really liking the look of it. Now, it's definitely bold, really bold styling. They've also come with something that is not a million miles away from the concept car that we saw. We'll get into the specs in a minute. We'll come straight to Tom, though, first of all. This is a big three-row vehicle. Very utility as well. You can swivel the second row round to face the third row. Have a little party in the back there. This is right up the United States street, right? This is a big vehicle, and it's very capable. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, well, what I do think is I like Philly Phil's comment just now, the plump Volvo, because that's really what I'm feeling, you know, at least the back end of it. I don't know how you can kind of look at the rear and not think Volvo, you know, at least a little bit. But yeah, that was a good one, Philly Phil. I like it. I didn't have kind of initial hesitation, Mark, like you did. I think I kind of liked the styling from the beginning. It mixes, you know, Hyundai's new or latest design theme pixels with sort of also stepping a little bit outside, because it definitely does not just look like every other Hyundai. I like how it looks. I like the fact that it has a 10% bigger battery than the EV9. I recently had the opportunity to drive an EV9 GT line I had it for about 10 days. I thought it was great. You know, I think it's perfectly suited for what our market here in the US wants, like that size SUV, family hauler. And what this did was, I think, improve upon one of perhaps the EV9's weaknesses, if you want to call it, range. I think it could have used an extra 20 or 30 miles. Not that people are going to need it regularly, but it's just kind of like that peace of mind that this, you know, 300-mile range EV in this size SUV. I think it's going to work.
I like the front end there looks nice, doesn't it? Like the back, I can see why it's love it or hate it or taking a while to get used to. But that front end looks very modern, very contemporary. All the pixel lights that you get with that family of cars now. Now, I remember Hyundai saying they didn't feel, this was a couple of years ago, the design team, they didn't feel like every car needed to look the same. So when the Ioniq 6 came after the 5, people were like, huh. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, you don't all have to have the same vehicle. And yet over the last couple of years, they have all come around to this theme. Like the Kias all look the same now. And the Hyundais are as well. I love that front end view. What are the highlights for you, Tom, on the design-wise?
No, like I said, I mean, I love that they continued with that pixel. I love the pixel look. I know some people don't like it. I think it's kind of like the people in my age group that grew up in the 80s. It's kind of like retro 80s, the pixel, which I like. And when you're looking at that rear view that you have up on the screen now for those watching on YouTube, how do you not look and say, like, is that a Volvo? You know? Yeah. But yeah, no, I like it. I love the swivel seats. I think that's really cool. Although I wonder if people are going to get car sick driving, you know, like that, you know, but I love that. I love the fact that it has the NACS incorporated. It's interesting to see how well it's going to charge, though. I mean, I know they said the 10 to 80 in 24 minutes is which is exactly what EV9 does with the large battery. So that it must either have a slightly higher charge rate, or it holds a higher rate longer in order to get that same 10 to 80 with a battery that's 10% larger. Yeah. But here's the thing.
Sorry.
No, well, here's the thing is that it has a native NACS plug. It's not going to get 24 minutes on Tesla superchargers. No, you know, so you're going to have to find the you know, other stations, other network stations like Iona, for instance. They're going to be installing the J3400 plugs on all of their, well, it's going to be site specific, but there's going to be an option at least on all of their sites, from what I believe. And you'd have to find those stations, because nowhere else really in the country, there's a couple sprinkled around. Can you get a 350 kilowatt charger with the NACS plug? You know, so now you're looking at adapters, you know, to use CCS to NACS again. I mean, this is going to be a mess throughout the industry. I've reached out to both Hyundai and Kia in the past to ask, could I interview them about their charging strategy with their 800-volt system with Tesla charging stations, and they all said, yeah, when the time's right, we'll tell you what our strategy is. But I'd love somebody to just explain to me how this is going to work. What are they going to do to be able to get higher charging rates out of Tesla superchargers? What's their workaround? I know the vehicles launching now will charge faster than the vehicles, the first gen eGMP vehicles did on Tesla superchargers. So they're already working on that. But I'd love somebody to really give us a good explanation. Haven't been able to get that out of either company yet. So I'm looking forward to maybe chatting with Kia or Hyundai soon to talk about this strategy, because it's great. But if the customers are all stuck buying adapters in order to be able to get a decent charge rate, a lot of people aren't going to like that.
Surely it comes with a CCS1 adapter. Surely. Must do.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I forget what each company was. Did Hyundai say the new vehicles moving forward? I thought Kia said that. I guess Hyundai's going to do it also.
No, I don't know.
Every company has different policies with regards to that. I forget, Kia or Hyundai, one of them said moving forward, we're going to give the adapter, but our previous customers that already bought our cars. If you want one, you have to buy it. So, they will be stuck using the adapter. And then again, it goes with, which adapter are they going to endorse? There's going to be the whole, Tesla's doesn't want non-approved adapters on their network. So we're going to get into all of this with this soon. And the interesting thing about it is so has the other networks, Electrify America, EVgo. They only want approved adapters. These vehicles pull a lot of current for long periods of time. So it's going to be interesting to see if there are any issues with some of the, say, lower quality adapters that people are buying now.
There's a start-stop button on the gear shifter. You just flick through it very quickly, Dom. I don't like that. Why is there a start-stop button on an EV? There should be a park button to put the handbrake on. Why is there a start-stop button on an EV in 2025? I mean, it's not the end of the world, is it? Let's face it, I'm nitpicking now. Really interesting vehicle. Depends on pricing, of course. No roof antenna you'll have seen on it in the pictures. GPS and satellite integrated into satellite radio in the windshield cover. The tailgate glass holds the AM/FM stuff as well. 16 exterior colors. It's got features on demand to further personalize your vehicle. That sounds to me like they're going to try and sell you stuff after you've bought the vehicle already. Features on just give me the feature when I buy the car. I don't want to have to rent seat heating. Not that they are.
And they're really silly things too. Like you open the door and the little light configuration, little light show happens when you open the door, or when you close the door. Like you pay extra money for something like that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. There's 100-watt USB-C powering, which is very important for those that work on the road and want a high-power USB-C. All very useful stuff like that. So these little things have been thought of. There's no reason why we shouldn't have high-power USB-C these days and vehicle to load these days, which of course it will. Rear climate, or climate all the way through. So if you're camping and you got the blow-up match in the back, it's going to be comfortable. 14-speaker Bose system. Chassis domain control unit enhances driving performance with dynamic torque vectoring. It'll tow 5,000 pounds. And we will get into some more of the specs in a minute. But Dom, what do you think of this? It looks like a comfortable place to be in the second row, let alone the first row.
Right. So I'm loving this. I spent some time in the EV9, and I feel like this is like the EV9 2.0. Like they just went around the vehicle and just improved it in a whole bunch of different ways. It's like looks a lot more. I haven't driven it yet, but I've watched. Out of Spec has a video up. Jordan, who was with us last week, has a walk around video. Yeah, and he also has actually on the Out of Spec podcast channel. He did a little video with Isaiah, who was on with us again last week as well. Isaiah taking over the podcast driver's seat over at Out of Spec. So yeah, this thing, it just looks like a really comfortable place to be. The third row looks really spacious, which is, a big SUV, three row SUV. The third row is kind of important, and this is kind of like the most spacious I think that we've really seen. I'm not sure if it's got more than the gravity it might. Jordan was 6 foot and he was in the back with a hat on and, no head, no issues with space. Leg space seemed to be okay. I mean, you can't get super generous in the third row with the leg space, but it seemed fine. Just so many things and then so we looked at the second row. It has a little leg rests that come up, and I think that's kind of a nice touch. I don't think I've been in a car actually and have those deployed, but there's a cabin there. It just looks like a really nice place, spend time. And this one has what's this? Oh no, there's another one coming up. Right, it has the rear climate control in the back, but I don't know if it has camp mode in it yet. It should have, or will be able to take or have a camp mode, or it will support that. All the infrastructure for that is in place if it's not already there. So that's something to look forward to. The design, I think it kind of knocks it out of the park. It's kind of nice. It's a nice departure from the EV9, where the EV9 is kind of blocky and chunky looking. This is kind of just smooths everything out, and I think I like the rear end more than the front. Actually, I like that fat Volvo remark. That was great. Lots of room. The third row stows flat. all kinds of room in the back. It just does everything a third row is supposed to do, I think. And having the native NACs now, the native, so you can plug in this Tesla supercharger. I'm not sure how important that is. That it's only 100 kilowatts charging, or around that area somewhere. Because the Tesla's going to be upgrading their stuff to V4, and they'll have 500 kilowatts starting to pop up here and there starting next summer. So it might be a little inconvenient over the next few years, but yeah, the future looks good for this. But and there's always, of course, the all the networks that have with the adapter, should be able to get decent charging speeds, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, this was an interesting little feature right here that we're looking at. So this, a lot of, most cars today have, phone charging like this, but this one actually has some cooling involved. So it's not just like a phone heater. Like, remember Kyle would come up and say that, oh, this one has a phone heater on it. This one should keep it cool. I'm not sure exactly where the fan is, but according to the press release, there is one there.
Oh, very good.
And,
They've thought about a lot of stuff in this, and it's been very well received. What was it, 335 miles? Is that in the longer? So all the specs of this vehicle get the same battery. So it's all the 110 kilowatt hour battery, which is a big beast of a battery, even in 2025. Sure, there are bigger ones, but this is going to give you a ton of range, and you can just keep stuffing batteries into vehicles at some point, and they just get more and more expensive. 12-inch instrument cluster, 12-inch central touchscreen, but it looks like just one big wide slab of glass, and a few nicely placed buttons where they need to be. I think they've done really well with this. The point is, as well, it's interesting to look at from every angle. It's really interesting, and yes, it's a big vehicle, and I'm not totally sold on that side view. I think what it is it's the wheel arches that are really kind of heavily sculpted, not more than the roofline. There's something about that side view that I'm not quite used to yet.
right.
But
it's a bit more busy than we're used to, for sure. It's got an interesting line. The one that Jordan did to walk around with, it had a little color. It had the body color in that one little strip across. I'm not sure if I can find a picture of it right here now. Like this little piece on the top of the wheel arch, it had this black surround, and then but it had this body color, here. It kind of looked kind of cool. But there's like a few different variations of how they do it. Like this one's all body color. This one has black around part of the arch, but not on this part. It's all kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's looking at the styling of it, and it's charging with native NACs, and so pricing. Did they give us pricing on that, Dom? I can't see it in the notes.
I don't believe they did. No.
Okay.
So it's got to be. I feel like it's going to be just a bit more than maybe a bit more, at least a couple grand more, because they had to pay for, besides all the niceties, 10 kilowatt hours more battery. So that's got to have some sort of price attached to it, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a big range, big battery, the biggest EV they've made to date, and they've had success with the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6, and you could argue Hyundai a little bit late with this, maybe, or they needed to come with something that was very, very good, because Kia have been, Kia have just been incredible. Maybe we'll talk about them today or not. That Kia EV3 is probably going to do another Volvo EX30, which has done 100,000 units so far in its first year. I think the EV3 is going to just fly. Tom, in terms of the US market, where does this sit with stuff like Range Rover? Is it going to tempt a Range Rover buyer, or do you think they play in different markets or similar? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really think so. The Land Rover, Range Rover, their customers, it's a prestige vehicle. And you just don't get prestige with a Hyundai badge. I'm sorry. I like it. I think it's great. I have no problem buying it, but I really think a majority of the Land Rover, Range Rover customers really want that prestige. And I say so because they're willing to pay more money than what, say, competing EVs are, that not EVs, just combustion vehicles that offer pretty much the same features, but they're willing to pay 20, 30,000 more to get that Land Rover, Range Rover prestige. And so I don't think that's going to change now with electric brands. The Range Rover, Land Rover brand, to me, the Rivians are really a perfect side-by-side comparison. And I think that's who really is eating into Land Rover brands. I have a friend of mine that lives up in Massachusetts that they've owned like 5 generations of Land Rovers. They just keep 3-year lease, 3-year lease, 3-year lease. And he was interested in my Rivian, and I almost convinced them to get it this last new lease swap out this summer. But he had cold feet at the end. It was like, well, the next one for sure, we're going to do it. But the Rivian, honestly, and he looked at all the electric SUVs out there, Mercedes and everything, and the Rivian is the only one that he would have considered. I'm certain he wouldn't have considered this. That's one person. This isn't going to be going. I don't think we're talking. Conquest from premium brands, but there's plenty of combustion SUVs in this segment that this would go after, in my opinion. Hyundai. It's interesting here. I don't know if it's the same in Europe, Tom. Hyundai, while the quality is so good now, and I put it on par with, say, the Asian brands and also European brands. There's still a lot of people here that have this stigma of when it first came out in the 80s. They were really low quality vehicles. And there's still people that I know still have a hard time saying, I bought a $60,000 Hyundai. I believe, and I think that's going to hurt them a little bit. But I think it's a great vehicle, and I'm certainly not saying the masses feel that way. But you asked me about, is it going to enter into Land Rover, Range Rover territory? I don't think so.
Okay, a few questions in the comments that I might not have seen. Anything I need to get to? Does it have a frunk? Somebody asked. Yes, quite a big one.
Yes.
Yes. As well. Vehicle to load. Yes, over here we'd get 230 volts out of that to power things off of the car. Any other questions that I missed? Does it come with cameras for mirrors? Yes, in the markets that you obviously not in the US, but if you want to spec it with the cameras for extra aero benefits, I kind of don't mind them. Wouldn't be my first choice. Mirrors wasn't really a problem that needed solving, but yes, you can spec it with that. Any other questions that we didn't get to?
Somebody was asking about the length. Nebula was asking about the length, and I just did a quick look here. It's about 199 inches long. 199.2126 inches long, if you translate it from the 5,060 millimeters. So it's about the Rivian R1S length, I think, but it has more room in the backseat. They've done a really great job of packaging, I feel like.
Yeah,
and the front is the same size as the EV9. If you have the rear motor with no front motor, it's actually a little bit bigger, and just like the EV9 as well.
Cool. All right, we should probably get some other. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it also has like noise canceling inside, so it should be a little bit quieter than the EV9 is. So it feels like it's just going to be just a bit more premium. I think this helps. I don't know. If it feels as good as it looks, I think it does help something to bring some amount of premium to the Hyundai brand. It's like slowly becoming more and more.
I agree. This week,
and they are, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a premium. If you're looking at it, it seems like it's a premium vehicle. And I didn't mean to infer before that nobody views it that way. It's just when you're going to the top of the line Range Rover, I think a lot of people, it's a leap for them to say, oh yeah, my next vehicle is going to be a Hyundai. I think they should look at it, but you pay. There's a lot of money built into when you're buying a Land Rover or Range Rover, just the prestige value, where you're not getting physical value, you're just getting prestige value, and you don't get that with a Hyundai.
Somebody asking what the WLTP stats were for it. 385 miles, I think, WLTP. Which is different to EPA, obviously, but you can work out the 110 kilowatt hour battery, work out the efficiency you think a vehicle like will that get, and then work out real world range, and whatever EPA or WLTP do, you can work it out from there. We should talk about other stuff. Go ahead, Dom, quickly.
I just want to mention one other kind of interesting little tidbit there is so it has all these 100 watt USB-C outlets everywhere. I'm not sure how many there are, but they're everywhere. But they draw right from the main battery. They don't draw from the 12-volt system like typically.
Ooh,
So
that's interesting.
yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it's an interesting implementation because they must have to go through some sort of DC to DC step down transformer to kind of do that. You know, obviously because you don't have 800 or I think the nominal voltage is actually 630 or 50.
Yeah, we always call it the 800 volt platform, but it's not at nominal.
Right.
Right.
It's a little higher than the EV9, which is why it charges a little bit faster. I mean, it charges the same speed as the EV9 with a bigger battery because it has a little higher voltage start.
I would ask about federal tax credit issues, but I don't think anyone has any appetite to talk about that at the moment because no one knows what's happening.
We don't know.
Even the car makers don't know.
No,
I thought
it's got the whole industries and it doesn't know what to do.
If you remember, so on the 1st of January, obviously the proportion of the Chinese bits gets less. And so it's, 60% at the minute, I think, non-China to get half the federal tax credit. It's so confusing. I think on January 1st, it goes to 70%. So I thought, well, I'll start looking at what the car makers are saying. Will our cars be eligible from the 1st of January? No one's talking about it yet. I don't think the car makers... Remember last year, this time a year ago, we were saying to them, even the Cybertruck, like, where's the tax credit on that? And we didn't fill out the paperwork. So nobody knows about the tax credit. In theory, it gets harder every year to access that portion, if it's even around. We should move on.
Yeah, I'm betting it's gone, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna have. It's a matter of how long it takes to get gone. Is like, are they gonna figure out some sort of weird way to cancel it right away? Like usually, you should have to go through Congress, right? Because it's a
law,
part of the
not
law.
a regulation.
It's a law.
Yes, not a regulation. Right. It's a law.
So there should be all this sort of red tape they'll have to go through to kind of make that all happen. They have a majority in the House and Senate, and some people would argue the Supreme Court, but
yeah. So we'll see how quickly that can or not go through. But yeah, everyone says, why are they getting free money to buy their electric cars? Well, that's such a small part of it. The point was to create a strong domestic, USA first battery supply chain, and you get rid of that. And the cheapest thing to do on the 20th of January will be to go buy it all from China again. And that will happen. And hundreds of thousands of jobs will be at risk in
And it was working. The legislation that they passed was working. These companies were building factories. They were investing in the U.S. because they knew they had to build batteries and also charging equipment. The chargers to get the federal funds had to be built in the U.S. I mean, look at Alpatronics. They partnered with a company up in Wisconsin to build all their DC fast charging equipment up there. If that goes away, jobs go away. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Right,
yeah, no, we'll see.
Because the incentive is part of that whole IRA package, right? Which has incentives for battery making, and
it was the public bit, Dom, that people see. Like, oh, my neighbor got free money to buy an EV.
Yeah,
I want it gone. I want it gone. And it's like, that was the point of it was to be USA strong, USA first. And so to get rid of it cedes the whole industry to China, but no one sees it how I see it. So,
Except there's a big tariffs on stuff from China, so we can't even, and who knows if it makes it just illegal somehow to import cars from China. Just forget about tariffs. Just like
there's tariffs on the cars, but in terms of the batteries and supply, I mean, there are tariffs on that as well. But that's not good. Let's talk about the other stuff that Hyundai and Kia came with this week because they have been doing an amazing job at bringing great cars to the market. And that is, if you have the pictures ready, I'll do EV9 GT next, Dom. So EV9 not wanting to be outshone by the Hyundai, made this available as part of the auto show this week. So, dual motor system, obviously, 510 horsepower, which is 122 more than the GT line, which isn't the GT. So, you're getting this big old beast doing 0 to 62 in 4.3 seconds, which is brilliant. And
it's ridiculous is what it is.
So, like, that is Ferrari, Lamborghini territory in the 80s, 90s, and now we're talking about a 3-row family Korean car, 4 seconds 0 to 60. It's just dangerous, isn't it? But it's brilliant at the same time. And what is interesting is they are bringing to this virtual gear shift, which, yes, it's a gimmick, but it does make you smile if you've used it. And so, you turn it off quite quickly, but if you are playing with it, it is quite funny. So for anyone who doesn't know what this is, it simulates gear shifts during acceleration. You can leave it in a low gear and it'll hit the rev limiter. They've done an amazing job with it. Now, it's not useful in any way whatsoever, but that's kind of the point about cool companies doing cool things and engineers doing engineering stuff, is it actually works really well. It does feel like there's a little cutout of power as you go up through the gearbox. It's not a gearbox, by the way, if you're new. It's single speed transmission, but simulated 8-speed gearbox. And it works really well in the Ioniq 5N, and they're bringing it to this as well. You get the active sound design system. So if you really, really want to drive an EV that sounds like a combustion car, you can. It's so much fun. You turn it off eventually. But if you're on your own, you have a little play and it's a giggle. But they've done so well with it. So it's got electronically controlled suspension, obviously the different drive modes, and then you can, I think, also include NACS on the GT EV9. Yes, so NACS is coming to this North American charging standard. It'll be native NACS on this as well. So all the things that Thomas said about charging all still apply, albeit with the 99.8 kilowatt hour battery. And so EV9 GT line was always EPA 270 miles and 235 kilowatts or so DC fast charging. And so again, 25 minutes to get to 80%, 10 to 80%. But they brought this, which I think it's crazy. Does anybody want this? You want it, but does anybody need this? It's a very, very fast 3-row family hauler.
It's hilarious. I just had a week with the Ioniq 5N, and it was a hoot to drive. I don't like the simulated sounds. I don't like, really, I've always said that I'm not a fan of the simulated gears when manufacturers try to make them on the cars, but it really worked with the Ioniq 5N. It was a blast to drive. So I'm sure it will be fun with this, but it's a different type of vehicle. Like the Ioniq 5 is a hot hatch. This, I don't know. It's fun to see that Kia's doing it, but I would probably have preferred if, rather than going in that direction on the EV9, if they would have made, let's say, like an ultra luxurious trim, rather than going, all on the end of the sport, because the people that drive these, for the most part, at least, I don't think this is what they're yearning for, to have, have simulated sound, simulated gears. I think more buyers would prefer if it was just more luxurious than the base EV9. If you really wanted to have this special breakout trim, go luxury instead of sport. If people want a sport vehicle, they're going to get a different type of a vehicle. So I don't know how many soccer moms, yearn to carve up the twisty roads on the weekends, when while the kids are playing soccer, which is what this is mostly used for, hauling families around. But I mean, it's fun that they did it. I probably would have taken, if you wanted to make a special low volume trim, I probably would have taken it the other way and gone like luxury.
Yeah, probably. That would be, really high spec, super, captain's chairs kind of thing, like first class airliner kind of thing, upper class. But still crazy.
So that puts me in mind. I like this suggestion a lot, Tom. That's a really great idea. This week, Marcus Brownlee had a little video out. He's reviewing the Mega from Li Auto, which is like a 3-row. It looks more like a minivan, and it's got minivan doors on it, but the inside is like all like luxury and features for about the same. It's about the equivalent to buy as this, or 80,000 ish in China. It would be more expensive here, but I mean, if you this had like a lot of those features in, like super nice, like captain's chairs in the second row with massaging and heat and ventilation. I think these do have heat and ventilation, or maybe that's the Hyundai actually.
I'm not sure which way around it is, but I watched that video as well, and I mean, you can't get the Li Auto Mega here, but it does charge ridiculously fast. And that second row is just like being in first class. It's got the big
screen from the roof.
Big screen that folds down from the roof, and it's got the pull-out tray between the front two seats that you pull out from the second row that is either heating up to, well, it's pretty hot, or it's a cooler. And all these things that have in Chinese cars are crazy. But uber luxurious, got the pillows for the headrests like a Mercedes-Benz EQS. It was proper luxury
Those are
as
nice.
well.
That's, I mean, how much does a pillow cost to make? Not that much, really. I got to think in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
So, but I really like that idea, Tom. Luxury EV9.
Luxury EV9
instead of the G, because I've driven like the slow version of this, and it was I liked it. I thought it had just like I thought it had about the right amount of power.
Yeah. More than enough power, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you're not competing with other electric vehicles. This is people that are going to get into the EV9 are people that have previously driven combustion SUVs in this class, and the power in the stock EV9 is more than enough for it, let alone the GT line. I would have loved to have seen a really nice upscale version of this thing where you get in it, you feel like you're getting in a Cadillac or a top of the line Tahoe or something like that, which really have plush, soft, comfortable, really nice amenities on the inside. I almost think that would have been a better direction. It probably would have cost Kia less to just just interior trim. You know what I mean? Maybe put a little more chrome on the outside to give it a little bit of a flashier look. That would have been the way I would have went with it. But I'm sure this thing's a hoot to drive. Looks like fun. The interior looks cool. But I don't know how big of a market there is for this.
It kind of feels like we sort of don't need to play this card anymore. Like,
yeah, not really. No.
Trying to zoom out a little bit and work out the various, because I was thinking only recently, because the Kia Soul came off sale in the UK after 10 years, November to November, 10 years to 10 years. Kia Soul, 2 different specs, small battery, big battery, 136 miles of range back in 2014. Very few cars were on sale in EVs in 2014, let alone that did more than 100 miles. And thinking, like, what are the eras of EV that we've lived through? It kind of feels like the era of Tesla Model 3 performance and Model S Plaid that are just weapons in a straight line and at times just uncomfortable for your passengers. It feels like that era kind of ended last year or the year before. Even other cars have come along that could be quicker, but they don't need to be because they're doing other things now. So what era of EV are we in? What era are we moving on to? And I thought we'd kind of left stupid fast behind us, but there's always room for stupid fast, right? If Kyle were here, he'd be like, "You're an idiot. What are you talking about? This is amazing." So, but on that tip, I think Lefty Duffer in the comments was saying, "What about the EV6?" All right, give us a minute. The new EV6 GT was also shown off at the auto show. That also gets virtual gear shift from Hyundai's Ioniq 5N. I want to be careful about this. So Hyundai and Kia are separate companies, and they engineer the cars themselves. And there's strength in depth in terms of the wider Hyundai motor group. But I've said a couple of times today, I think, and I've certainly read loads. The Kia gets the system from the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Shouldn't be a given, by the way, to assume that what they're doing is copying stuff across. They are separate companies. But anyway, what I'm doing is correcting myself there. But it is, although in the press releases they never say, "Hey, it's Hyundai's system," effectively Kia could say it and nobody would care, which is to bring that we just talked about to the Kia EV6 GT as well. This will be made in South Korea, not Georgia. So the Kia EV6 GT wouldn't qualify for US tax credits, least loophole notwithstanding. And apart from that, I'm trying to think of anything else they talked about this week with the EV6 GT. Apart from new model year, they've changed the styling. You get the car so Korea got it in March or May. We've already got it as of August. So I think you now get the new updated face, some stuff inside, some stuff outside. It's really nice. That's your model year 25 with the revised styling. It's really, really nice car. Really nice. And so, yeah, I think we've seen that before from other markets. For any of our US viewers that only look at the sort of the US market, this will be the first time you're seeing the new look EV6, I think. I forget what we've talked about.
Yeah, it's got the bigger batteries going up to 84. I think we talked about these changes earlier in the year, but we couldn't see it. But it's got the 84 kilowatt hour battery this year. It's also got the virtual gear shift thing that's in the GT version.
Yeah.
That's in the EV9 GT as well.
Yeah.
So it's going around. It's got better sound absorption materials in it. It's gonna be quieter. The steering wheel has like electric tilt, and telescoping. So it's got all those things. It's gonna have the little things that you can buy as well. This after the fact, after the main purchase, it has a few through the Kia Connect store. They'll be able to offer, they say, available digital features and services. And it's a 2025, but it only goes on sale in the first half of 2025. Usually the model year, this would already be on sale traditionally. 2025 model year on sale now, except this one's not coming until sometime in the first half of next year.
Made in Georgia, like I say, apart from the GT.
Right.
All good. That's right. We'll get onto that in a minute. Now, let's move on from auto show stuff. We've done a lot of time on Hyundai and Kia, talking about very nice vehicles that we could be driving. Tom, you spent the past few days with the GMC Sierra EV Denali. Now, they called it the first drive event, but I think the vehicle's already at dealers, isn't it? But this is the first time for you driving it, talking about luxury and dialing everything up to the max. What do you think?
Yeah, so, well, that's really what it is. I look at it as like a Silverado in a tuxedo, the Denali, you know, and that's what we drove. I mean, there's the regular Sierra EV, and then there's the Denali, which is the top spec of the Sierra. And, you know, I tell you, I really liked it. I mean, first off, technically, it's very similar to the Silverado. Same battery pack, same pretty much charging characteristics. But, of course, you know, GMC then takes it and puts their own look on it. It's got a different grille, as you could notice. The rear doesn't have that angular avalanche style, I guess, you know, the back of the truck that the Silverado has looks more like the old Avalanche. It has the mid-gate like the Silverado does. And that was me with Jordan Schieffer from Out of Spec. We partnered up on this. I also stopped at a DC fast charger to do a quick recording to 20 to 80% just to see if it was GM says that you could hit 100 miles in 10 minutes. And we pretty much showed that you could, even though it wasn't pulling the full amount of power that it could. They also did a nice, if you're watching on YouTube, demonstration. I'm going to have a long, like 40-minute video on the GM's home energy system with the Silverado to show exactly how it all works and all the parts to it, what it cost. It's probably going to be the first video that I put out. And quite honestly, that's why I went to this. You can see it's doing the crab. It does the crab walk. It also has, interesting if you're watching, you should see the towing here now. It can do hands-free Super Cruise towing, which it's really the only, like Ford can't do hands-free Blue Cruise, which is interesting that it can do that with, while you're on Super Cruise, hands-free, you can tow. Range 460 miles with the big battery pack. They're going to have a smaller pack out soon that's like 170 kilowatt hour. This is 205 kilowatt hour usable. That's going to be, I think, right under 400 miles EPA. I think they're saying like 390 or 395. This there is a 460 mile EPA. But the real, to me, the thing is, it's very similar to Silverado. It's Denali trim. It's, you know, to me, it was the nicest interior of any electric pickup truck, quite honestly. And I love my, and John's saying this video is out already. It's really not, John. What you're looking at was Jordan's video. The film that you're looking at here is my video, which there's a small clip in it that looks the same, but it's a different video. I'm not going to have mine out for a while. I'm going to wait till everybody else publishes their Denali videos, then I'll put mine out last. But my first video I am going to put out is on the GE Energy, because quite honestly, that's more important to me, the charging and the home energy systems, than actually doing first drive reviews anymore. They're way at the bottom of my list with priorities. But since I was there, I said, I'll make a video to me and Jordan. But I honestly thought, to me, and as I was saying before I changed my topic, of all the electric pickup trucks that are out there now, I love my Lightning. You guys know I talk about it all the time. I think the Rivian interior is absolutely gorgeous, totally premium. I think I might choose the Denali interior as my favorite. It's really, I think that GMC really nailed it as far as a combination of comfort, premium, how it's laid out. They really did a good job with it. And, I don't really care that it can do the crab walk. To me, that's a parlor trick. I think it's maybe very useful for people that do extreme off-roading, to really move in and out of tight spots. It's not a good truck for extreme off-roading. It's too big. But I can see where there would be some situations where you'd use that. The rear wheel steering is much more useful to me. It really drives smaller than what it is. And that every time I get into the truck, like a Cybertruck or the Silverado or this Denali that has the rear wheel steering, I feel it because I'm daily driving the Lightning, and I'm like, geez, I wish my Lightning had rear wheel steering, because it really makes it drive so much smaller, quote unquote, around hairpin turns and so forth. But yeah, I really was really impressed with what GMC did as compared to Silverado. And I like Silverado. They made it different enough where it's not just like, in past, sometimes the Silverados and Sierras were like, it's the same vehicle, a couple knobs were different, a little bit of chrome trim was different, but this is really like a completely different vehicle looks wise. It has the mid gate still, it has that functionality. The frunk is the same size, battery, all that stuff's the same, but other than that, they really gave it its own personality. It's definitely the upscale and even higher than the RST, which is the Silverado top trim. I liked it a lot better. I thought would probably, if all the vehicles were available right now and I didn't have a truck, I'd probably get the Denali, but with the smaller battery. I wouldn't get the 200 kilowatt hour battery. I'd get the 170 kilowatt hour battery pack. I don't need that big of a battery. The Lightning's battery is big enough for me. I think that might be my choice. It might be my favorite truck on the market now.
So Power Station Pro, which is GM's name for it, which allows you to pull 10.2 kilowatts of offboard power from the Denali Edition 1, or just Denali as it will be 2025, for external devices, charging things, powering tools, campsites, charging another EV if you need to, using the, don't call it Ultium technology. Your video, which isn't going to be out yet, so I don't want to spoil it, we saw all of those shots of the batteries on the wall. Were they focusing on how the vehicle integrates with a house, or was it a whole separate bit, which is the batteries and the home system and the islanding and all the stuff that it can do, or was it all involving the truck as well? What was their selling thing on those batteries?
Well, both. We went over everything. We go over, if you have your truck and you just want your truck to power your house, this is what you need. This is what it costs. This is what you'll get out of it. These are the options. But then if you want to take it one step further, we've got these battery options here. You can daisy chain. You can put two of them together. You can get up to 35 kilowatt hour of home storage. It starts at about 10 and goes up to about 35. And then we talked about how you would use it with the truck. What you would do if there was a prolonged power outage and you have the batteries, but you also have your truck. So it's going to default and use the home batteries, but then there's going to be times where you can come in and manually just have the truck do it. Or let's say it's a really long power outage, Martin, and you don't have solar charging your batteries. You could, during the day, drive the truck somewhere to where there is a working DC fast charger, charge up, come home, and recharge the system and power it, and then run that until your battery's out, and then go do it again. So it's a really flexible system. And GM also has really good, huge discounts on it right now. So it's like 30% off or something like that. So it actually is a pretty good deal if you're ready to move quickly. You can get the system installed for a lot. That you'll save thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And if you get the batteries, then there's even more savings, because then the whole system gets part of a federal tax credit on like home energy. So I think it's an additional 30% off the entire system if you actually pair it with a battery.
Yeah, we have something similar. Well, they waive the VAT on that. So for us, it's 20% discount. If that's adding some battery, I think, as well. So Daryl in the comments says, "Good morning from Bomb Cyclone Ravaged." How do I say that? Issaquah? ISSAQUAH. Sorry if I got your town, your city wrong, your village. Where we've been out of electricity since Tuesday, says Daryl. Our Generac natural gas generator is powering our home and keeping the iX fully charged. Okay, so that's quite an extreme situation. No power for 3 days. I hope you're okay. Sounds like you're prepared for it. If you're in the kind of area that is more rural, or you do get power cuts. We said this, actually, Tom. Obviously, you've been traveling loads, Tom, and we missed you. And on the midweek show, we had somebody saying, should I get a Nissan Leaf? Or should I get a vehicle that can do vehicle to home, vehicle to grid with CHAdeMO, because I want backup for my house? And Dom and I both came to the conclusion, actually, if you are having power cuts, you should probably put in a home battery system that is fully integrated with your panel and all that kind of stuff, and it will keep you on. Where are they pitching? When you're with the Denali and the batteries, where are they pitching the system currently? Is it for disaster relief? Is it just because you want to be an early adopter and play with the latest toys? How are they selling this to people?
Yeah, I think it's, to have the security that you have power, but they're also pitching it for energy arbitrage.
Okay.
Because there are areas in the country that have extremely high on-peak or peak electricity rates. And you can use this to fully charge the batteries during off-peak hours and save a ton of money, and then let it power the home during the day. So it's actually for both, and I don't know if GM is marketing as either. I think they're saying, look, this can do a lot of things. And if you pair it with a solar array, wow, now it becomes really, really, functional and useful, and you can do a ton of things with it. You're secure, never have to worry about running out of power. And yes, you can save money with, energy arbitrage.
Interesting. Australia, I think, have some new federal rules coming in 2025 that will probably properly open up vehicle to grid, not vehicle to home, but proper grid integration at a top level down to say, we want to do this. And look, this time of year in Australia, you've stolen all of the sunshine for a start. So why don't you make the most of it? Have all your panels, have your cars, have your home battery, and have everything working together. Polestar were one of the first ones to come out and say, yeah, the new Polestar 3 or 4, maybe both of them, will do vehicle to grid. The software is not ready. That's going to be ready in Q3 25. 12 months of dev time. But still, we've been talking about vehicle to home, vehicle to grid forever. But either way, we're getting there slowly.
Yeah.
It'd be such a big, this would be such a big tick off the list when you've got people that say, I'm not going to drive an EV because they blow up in your driveway. You can go 5 minutes down the road before there'll be a fire. The battery goes into landfill after 100 miles. And besides, when we all drive EVs, the grid's going to melt. And these kind of things where vehicles work with the grid and support it might mean that geographically, specifically, we need to rethink certain bits of grids in certain countries. But it'll make things much easier for the grid. It'll ease the load. It will be providing energy when we don't have to turn on peaker plants. And it's such a... This will be a big tick off that list when those people go,
Martin, I talked to GM a lot about this off the camera.
Okay.
Before we did the video, we were just, as I'm setting up my cameras, we're talking and everything, and we got into a deep dive into that. And I had mentioned how the people I talked from the utilities around the country are basically saying that they're like, we don't view EVs as a problem. We honestly, down the road, we think there'll be a solution for us to help manage the grid and help. It'll be like a giant buffer. And GM said the same thing. They're like, we have all those conversations, obviously, with utilities, and they say, it's going to be initially, in a transitional period, it's going to create some problems. They're going to have to change some capacity, move things around, add transformers and so forth. But long term, they don't view the electric vehicle adoption as a major problem. It's a major problem. Okay, yeah. I'm not saying it, but it's a solvable problem. And it will actually help the grid long term. And that's, I mean, I've done videos on this, and everybody I talk to that's in the industry that talk to people in some of the largest utilities around the country say the same thing.
Yeah. So Kevin asks, would supporting the grid degrade your battery faster? Look, any cycle through a battery can potentially change it. Some research coming out of France on a trial there showed the battery health of a battery that was well managed and discharging and charging properly with the right algorithms between 20 and 80% was in better health than someone who just abused their battery and not. So it's not as simple as saying yes or no. Yes, of course, if you cycle a battery, you know, you're going to have electrons moving in different directions, but it's going to be done in a very clever way. And like I said, there's some research that says actually the batteries are healthier. John Check says, thank you, John, for supporting the podcast. Really kind of you, John. Thank you so much. Congratulations to Tom, says John, for hitting 100,000 subscribers on State of Charge. Tom,
congrats,
you guys.
You didn't mention this. Come on, this is a big moment.
Yeah, it was pretty big. I was happy to see it. You know, it's something that all, you know, YouTube channels really aim to get. You know, when you get to that 100,000 sub level, it's kind of like, okay, you've kind of made it. You know, it's a hard plateau to hit. And I did it in 4 years. I really started making videos about 4 years ago. So it's been a fun ride, and hey, that's why I keep doing it. If I wasn't getting views, if people weren't interested, I would stop making videos. But the channel keeps growing. People seem to be interested in the charging content I'm putting out. So hey, I'll keep doing it.
Please do.
My plaque is on the way. YouTube sends a plaque to everybody that gets 100,000 subs. So nice. I think I'll have it for next. I think it's coming like Tuesday or Wednesday next week. I just got an email that's coming. So I'll put it on the wall behind me for next week's show.
You have to display it. That's the rule of any YouTuber, because I will reduce you to being a YouTuber now. You have to display it. That's the deal. You've got to have a shelf and a plant and some books and your YouTube thing. That's the rule. Let's talk a little bit about something else you've been doing. A couple of weeks ago, before your travels, you showed us a meter socket that I think I understood what it was. But in the meantime, you've now had a trip up north to make a video about, how do I say it? ConnectDER? ConnectDER?
ConnectDER.
ConnectDER,
Yeah.
right. Connect and then capitalized DER, so ConnectDER, to show us, to tell us more about it. What? And we got some raving comments about it. I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a problem over there. What is it, and what did you learn?
Yeah, it is a big problem. So a lot of people that want to get an electric vehicle, and this is time, if you're watching on YouTube, time lapse of us putting it on. It took all of like 20 minutes to install this, which is amazing. If you want to buy an EV and you want to charge at home, but your home's electric service is limited. Let's say you have a 100 amp main. A lot of houses in the US have a 100 amp main. So how are you going to add a 60 amp circuit, let's say for 48 amp charging, if your whole house only has a 100 amp main? And then there's a lot of people that have 125 amp mains, 150. And it's difficult for them to install charging. So this one company, ConnectDER, came out with a solution for some of these people. It's a meter collar that you see being installed there. We first pulled the electric meter off. Then this collar gets installed there, and then on top of the collar, there's like its own mini circuit. That little piece of plastic you see on top of the meter there. That adds its own circuit that is smart share. That is a smart circuit that if the rest of the house is exceeding its draw, so that the 40 amps or whatever you have pulling from this is going to overload your home circuit, it shuts off. So if you're charging your electric car and then you turn on a whole bunch of other things at your house and you're going to exceed your home's 100 amp main, the car charging will stop, and then it checks it like every few minutes and starts it charging again. So these aren't completely new. Back years ago, when everybody started getting central air installed in their homes, companies developed things like this, but they really weren't safe. We didn't have the technology back then to really do smart energy monitoring, and a lot of utilities banned them. A lot of utilities said you can't put these out. And one of the problems we have in the US is there's no standard that says, okay, you can use these. We have about 3,000 utilities in the U.S., private companies. Some are public companies. And they all have to approve a device like this. There's no like, okay, you can use this. So one of the problems they have right now is they're going and getting them approved all over. One of the first states to approve them was Green Mountain Power in Vermont. So I went last week up to Vermont to do the very first install in the state. And it was at a customer's house that has a Kia EV6. And Kia needs some props here. Kia is promoting this product. They're going to have a program, at least in Vermont right now, where it's allowed, where the dealers are going to be able to talk to the customers and say, well, if you're interested in doing this, but you don't have enough power in your house, we have a solution for you. So we can almost guarantee whatever your home's electric setup is, you'll be able to have an electric car charger installed at your house. Let's just have Qmerit, my channel sponsor, is the official installer of this device, and they also are Kia's partner for installing electric vehicle charging equipment. So basically, it's like, let Qmerit go to your house, analyze what you have there, and we'll give you a solution that won't necessarily include a $5,000 whole home upgrade, which is what a lot of people needed. This particular customer, when they bought their house, it had a hot tub. Then they decided they wanted an electric car, and they couldn't have both. So they disconnected the hot tub last year, much to their chagrin, because it was one of the reasons why I talked to the owners. It was one of the reasons why they bought the house, because it is beautiful hot tub behind the house, beautiful, peaceful. They're on the side of a mountain. You could just sit out there and relax. But it's been disconnected now for a year. But now that we were able to put this meter socket in, they can charge their car and reconnect the hot tub and have both. So, the company ConnectDER is in the process of getting this thing approved all across the country. And what's going to happen, I believe, and what they believe is, once they get the ball rolling, once, 10, 15, 20 different utilities approve it in a bunch of states, it'll be a lot easier for them to just get this thing approved everywhere, because utilities are going to look at it. They're going to be able to go to a utility, say in Texas, and say 400 utilities across the country have already approved this. So here it is. Take a look at it and let us know. It's just hard to get the ball rolling in the beginning.
So
I think go ahead.
Who installs it? Is it the utility that installs it, or a qualified electrician?
So yeah, here's the thing. It'll be a qualified electrician, but depending on the state, like in Vermont, electricians are allowed to pull the meters themselves. So we did it all in 20 minutes, pulled the meter, put the socket on, connected it, it was done. But in many states, the utility is the only entity that's allowed to pull the meter. So you have to coordinate with the utility. They'll come, they'll pull the meter, the electrician will put it on, hook it up, and the utility will just put the meter back on and it'll be done. That's not that hard. Like when I did a service upgrade at my two homes, I had to have the utility involved to come out and pull the meter while my electrician did some work. You schedule it with your utility. They send somebody out and pull the meter and then pop it back on for you. But in some states, the electrician could do the whole thing, which was the case in Vermont, which made it easier. We were able to just do it all in 20 minutes.
Yeah, same over here actually. So that we have tags and stuff on. And
price wise, I mean, you can buy the unit and have it installed for about $1,000.
So that's good.
So compared to $4,000 or $5,000 to do a full service upgrade, if let's say you only have 1,000 amp main and you want car charging, you're going to upgrade to 150 or maybe 200. It'd probably be smart in today's world to get a 200 amp main as your upgrade. It's probably going to be like $5,000. So here you can get it done. Yeah, here you can get your electric car charger installed and be that end of it at least. That's not including the charger or whatever conduit you need run to wherever you go. This particular house we had to run conduit around the whole house. But I'm going to have a full video up on that in about a week, too, talking about it. And I talked to Kia representatives who are on site, Qmerit representatives, ConnectDER representatives. I got a lot of interviews that are going to be packed in this one installation video. But it's a great product, and I'm really excited. It's going to really help people that have small services across America install good electric car charging. They won't be stuck on like 16 amps. You could put in a 40 amp charger, in some cases a 48 amp charger, and charge your vehicles fast at home.
So over here, we do single phase 240 volt or 230, 240 volts. In mainland Europe, three-phase is a little more common for our viewers watching around the world. So mainland Europe, three-phase found more often. Here in the UK, 9 times out of 10, domestically, in fact more than that, it would be a single phase, but we're at 240 volts. So again, when we talk about having a 100 amp fuse, because I've got a 100 amp fuse coming into my house, but that means I can pull 24 kilowatts before that would blow, which would be a very bad day. But for you, I need to always remember that's 12 kilowatts. So if you talk about having a 100 amp fuse, well, you can use 12 kilowatts really quickly in a house. And so, yeah, on 120 volt, that's an issue. 200 amps would be a minimum you really think to get away with. And we don't have HVAC here either, because we live in such a temperate climate. We use gas to heat hot water, which we pump around radiators in our rooms. That's pretty common here in the UK. Very rare as well to have air conditioning or a heat pump air conditioner. I've got one here in the office because it keeps me cool in the summer and hot in the winter. And it's really, really efficient. But yeah, lots of US homes would have some form of heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and then you add an EV and a hot tub, and it gets crazy really quickly. So that's the finished article then, Tom. It is chunky, isn't it? So, and it doesn't have another meter on it, so you keep your meter, you keep billing the same way as you always did. You just put that on as well.
Yeah. So this part here snaps onto where the meter was, and then on the front, the meter comes onto here. So it's basically like a meter extension, right? And then on the side here, your power, I'm sorry, that's just the LED lights over here that tells you if it's working or if there's any issue or anything. Now this is the separate circuit for the EV charging. It's just a breaker, and the beauty about this is it just snaps on. And the reason why this was important to be designed this way was the utilities that need to do work on the house. If this was all one part here, they couldn't work on the house without disconnecting without having another electrician come and removing this. But since this can pop off and you have flexible conduit feeding this, they can pop this off and just lay it to the side, and then the utility can work on the meter or swap out the meter or do any kind of work they need to the house. And this is just kind of dangling on the side, and when they're done with their work, they just put it back on top, snap it in, and it's connected. And that was a very important part of this, and ConnectDER has a patent on that, like removable circuit technology, because this was a big problem that a lot of utilities wouldn't go for if this wasn't removable, if you couldn't take this off. And now the utility couldn't do any work on the house, because you can imagine it's hardwired to some other device, the meter.
Yeah.
So this is a very important aspect of this can come off, and now it's just a meter with like a meter extension that the utility can just pull off and do whatever work that they want.
Okay, makes sense. Oh, so Dave, thank you for clarifying, Dave. So yes, so you have 240 volt, but you are 120 volt on your domestic circuits. Oh, sorry. Then Dave says we're 120, 240 split phase. Okay, I understand. So when I see things like you talk about dryer sockets and stuff like that, would that be a 240 volt circuit in America? So you say, I've got my dryer circuit in the garage and stuff like that. So
and electric ranges, like electric cooking devices.
Interesting way of doing it. Okay, more complexity than we have here around EV charging. Excellent. All right. How are we doing for time? 20 minutes left. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the other news that's been happening this week. And that is a slight delay to the Ram 1500 Rev and the Ramcharger. It's not going to be a huge delay. We thought that before the end of the year we'd get those vehicle unveils. We didn't. We got the platform unveil. So the Stellantis, which is the company with 14 brands under the umbrella, but obviously, well known for Jeep and Dodge and Ram. STLA frame is either going to be a pure BEV up to 500 miles, or it's going to be EREV, which will have the engine working as a generator. It will support large trucks, full-size SUVs as well. 2,700 pound payload, 14,000 pound towing capacity. We got more details about the platform. It all looks good. The pure BEV side of it would be an 800-volt platform. The EREV side would be a 400-volt system, but still both of those charging very quickly compared to its competitors. It's funny, Dom, you and I were talking midweek about this. EREV, extended range EV, is the current buzzword of the second half of 2024. And because some of the car makers thought they'd be selling more EVs than they are, so they're saying, oh, maybe we'll do hybrids. And the Chinese in 2024 have really gone quite big on EREVs. And so now everyone's dropping that as a phrase to be cool, right? They're like, oh, we're going to make EREVs. They're these magical things that have engines as generators. Meanwhile, Tom, 15 years ago, is looking at his first BMW i3, being like, what the hell are you talking about? We've had that technology forever.
Listen, don't give BMW all the real props go to GM with the Volt. That was you're going back 3-4 years before BMW with the i3. So maybe Mary did lead after all.
She led. She did it. But so EREV is the current thing, and they're like, we're going to make EREVs, and they're going to have a generator. And we're all, those of us that have been talking about this for more than 5 minutes are going like, right, so, okay, congratulations, but it does get reported as this kind of new thing. And it's got a new name. It's not called Series or Serial Hybrid anymore. It's actually got a new name. And so that makes it very exciting. So it'll have that. Look, and I think, in all seriousness, it makes perfect sense. If you're towing or hauling and you're doing elevation, the energy density of fossil fuels is greater than lithium-ion batteries. And hydrogen has pretty dense energy storage, but we're not there yet with it. And so why wouldn't you use that as an energy store? Just don't make us all do it. Like, I don't need an EREV in a million years, but I would call it an edge case, and don't be offended for people that tow all the time. I'm not calling you an edge case, but if you do need to tow, if you're doing elevation and you want to get through hundreds of miles in a go, well then, this is useful technology for a period of time before batteries improve. So we got to know about the platform, but not so much about the vehicles, apart from they're a bit delayed. How much are they delayed by, Dom? I didn't read that specific bit.
They just said 2025 instead of this year as validation work continues. So I'm thinking like it should be the first half, because it should be the first half. Like if they're not here by spring, I'm like, I think that's too long, really, because
Yeah.
But this is interesting. They're really trying to cover all their bases. So this new platform, they can put like just a regular internal combustion drive powertrain in there, or a hybrid, or they say hydrogen, but yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, there's just so much uncertainty now, especially now with the new administration coming in. They don't know. No one knows exactly where to place their bets anymore. Exactly. I mean, they should know that they need to go electric. I mean, the rest of the world is. So that's basically the direction they need to go. And, the EPA has like some strict requirements. I'm not sure. I guess trucks kind of get around that right now, but to some extent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to these. These are going to be interesting trucks when they finally get here. But yeah, getting here. But yeah, the EREV thing too, as we were talking about this earlier this week. People are pretty excited about it, but like they've never heard of it before. But people will. I mean, maybe they might sell a bunch for a year or two, but people will soon understand that. Oh, I can drive an electric car just as easily as I can an EREV because I'm plugging that in anyway. So why have two powertrains? Why all the extra maintenance and cost and weight or complexity? Just give me an electric thing. And then also with the batteries improving over time, over 2-3 years, we have a few solid state things going on in the news this week too. There's just going to be so much, just getting better and better. I just don't see the EREV being a very long lasting solution. We've had it for, the Honda Clarity plug-in hybrid was kind of an EREV situation. I guess that had some mechanical connection too of it, but basically, these things have been here for a while, and they haven't been, people haven't been clamoring for them until just now when I guess they feel like they're maybe forced by an electric car, and that kind of it makes them uncomfortable. So maybe I think this might be this hybrid idea. Maybe this will be a little easier for me to adapt to. I think that's kind of like the thinking here, but I think once the battery adoption just keeps going up and kept going up, a lot of people say, "Oh, okay, we'll understand. Well, if all these people do it, if my neighbor's doing it, I guess I could probably do it too." Then, right?
It is interesting technology. The BYD Shark 6 is a version of that as well, which has gone on sale in Australia and got a ton of pre-orders when that arrives. Oh, I saw it was reviewed on what's John McElroy's, that Autoline. So I watched that, and he used to do a bunch of stuff with Sandy, and who's the other guy who tears down cars? He did a video with him.
Yeah.
They use them a bit more often, I think, now. And they didn't even mention the powertrain. And they were like, hey, they looked at the truck, and obviously he's a legend, and I'm not criticizing it in any way. And very good at what he does. But they were looking at the truck and the bed length and all that, and they didn't really get into the powertrain, which is exactly that, which is an electric motor on the front and the rear, but with that BYD Shark, because it's a single speed transmission. But it can mechanically link to the front wheels over something like 50 miles an hour. So at highway speeds where perhaps maybe you are towing and you are needing to then dip into the gas, when you're up to speed, then it can turn the battery off, recharge the battery from the combustion, and then also drive the front wheels at highway cruising speed. Which is a fascinating little, I forget the name of BYD's powertrain for that, which isn't in more than just the BYD Shark, but really, really interesting. They didn't even really touch on it, which is a real shame, because that's the juice in that vehicle. That's the kind of secret sauce for Aussies that want to drive their utes and don't want to give up that safety net of having the petrol. Again, it wouldn't be for everybody, but yeah, fascinating. So that's it. Brennan says Caresoft. Yes, it was a really good video. The chap from Caresoft is brilliant, and he knows his cheese. All right, let's talk a little bit. So Dom, you mentioned Honda unveiling their demonstration production line, which is good because we get to see something. The Japanese car makers Toyota for a long time have been talking about all solid state battery, not semi-solid state, and saying, it's just around the corner. It's located in Sakura City, Tochigi Prefecture. How was my Japanese? Was that okay?
Tochigi.
Okay, there you go. You'll do it better than me, no doubt about that. And showing it off, but it's for some sort of production towards the end of the decade. So it's a demonstration line. CATL, the world's biggest EV battery maker, have talked a lot about their investment in full solid state and saying it's fabulously hard to go from this stage that Honda's at, because CATL have been here with demonstration lines and in the lab, and we can do it, but now do it hundreds of millions of times. And it's that leap where CATL have gone, we're kind of not pinning our hopes on it in the future. They can't do that next big jump. CATL's talking about their second generation sodium ion cells. Now they are in sodium ion is in cars in China. So those cells are in Chery cars, JAC cars run them. And their second-gen sodium-ion cells go down to minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is probably getting towards where it is outside Tom's house right now, because Tom says there's snow. And you got some weather.
CATL has some big ambitions for the sodium battery. So they've got it to work in minus 40 degrees, which is the same in Fahrenheit or Celsius. But right now, the energy density is like below that, significantly below that of LFP batteries. But CATL believes that they can get to where LFP batteries are now, in a couple, just a very short time. I think it was like 2 years of looking at 2027. I think they're trying to go for 200 watt hours per kilogram, which is where LFP is kind of right about now. But this will be no lithium. It's just like salts, like sodium. So it should be a lot cheaper to manufacture, and also just ease up on the lithium supply chain. Maybe a little bit more environmentally friendly in some ways too. So it should be a nice like a low cost offer. I think the cars that it's in now in China they're pretty small. I don't know if it's a great technology for cars right at the moment. Maybe for like really budget small. I don't even know. Yeah, but going forward, it should be. It's a very interesting one that we should probably have somebody on here to talk about it, walk us through more about it.
But I don't want to wish away today for the future, because the current lithium-ion technology, whether it's NMC technology or MCA or LFP, anything we've got on the road right now is damn good compared to what we had 10 years ago, talking about the eras of EV. So I don't want to come across as saying, well, what we've got now isn't good enough for stuff. It's edge cases now, isn't it? It's towing and it's elevation. It's big vehicles. But even that's being done already with current technology. So
yeah.
I
mean, what we have now is good, but it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah. And we've just continued to see gradual improvement. I don't think we're going to get that one like we just hit the holy grail. It's just going to be gradual. Batteries are just gradually going to improve over the next decade, as they have over the past decade. So I'm not as hopeful. Like, I don't put as much emphasis on, I think, on the sodium battery, the solid state batteries. I think they're all just going to gradually come and make gradual improvements. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This technology is just going to make everything so much better. I remember 10, 12 years ago, the energy density of cells and how much they cost, and to see where we are today, it's ridiculous. There's so much improvement we've had in the last decade, and it's just going to continue. I kind of believe at that pace. I don't think we're going to 2028, we're going to see, a 20% drop in batteries and a 50% increase in range. It's just going to gradually just keep getting better and better and better. I hope we have that one big step forward. I just don't see it happening. I think we're just going to continue to improve. Energy density is going to get better. Prices are going to come down. The cells are going to be able to accept more power, so they'll charge faster, and we'll just gradually get there. And 10 years from now, we'll open up and we'll say, we can't believe how slow batteries charged and how weak they were 10 years previously. When I look back now at my original Mini E battery pack, it was it's crude compared to what we have today, and that's where we're going to be. So we're going to get there. And I just want to circle back really quickly to a comment that somebody made, and we put it up earlier, that said that, Tom, I thought Tom was telling people don't buy the i3 with the range extender because it sucks. I think on one of our battery bargain episodes, I told people not to buy the 2014, 2015, maybe even 2016 i3s with the range extender because they had problems with them. And I was really specifically talking about the earliest ones. It seems like the later generation ones are just fine. I wouldn't buy a 2014, 2015 i3 Rex. They seem to have a lot more problems. Whatever issues they had, BMW worked them out. But that's even a little bit different. The i3 with the range extender is even different than most of the plug-in hybrids. It has a tiny little motorcycle engine that's 30 horsepower. Most of the plug-in hybrids that we see today have legitimate motors in them that produce a lot of power. So BMW went a different route to try to qualify under this BEVX exception that CARB had in California, and it was successful. They were able to. So it's really a different beast than any of the other plug-in hybrids that I've seen so far. Was the BMW iX, a very small, very weak motor that really was just like a little portable generator that in some instances was so small and so underpowered that it couldn't supply the amount of power that the vehicle needed when it was going up a hill at highway speeds. No other plug-in hybrid has that same type of a setup or issue. So that's kind of an exception to the plug-in hybrid rule.
I think you still have to code the later ones. So I know the earlier ones, you had to kind of code them so they wouldn't discharge the battery so far before the range extender kicked in to keep the power levels up so you could go highway speeds. Yeah,
you typically don't have to with the larger battery ones, Don, because you have more a bigger buffer. The original i3, the usable capacity, of course, was 19 kilowatt hour or something. It was a 22 kilowatt hour battery pack. So the buffer that was 5% or whatever it was, maybe it was 10%. It's you had a kilowatt hour and a half of battery buffer. So you could burn through that really quickly going up an incline. If the vehicle's calling for 75 kilowatt and the little range extender is pumping out 50 kilowatt, you're going to burn through your buffer really quickly. But now when you have these much larger batteries, the buffer's bigger. So you really need to be going up a real long hill. But even the biggest battery i3, if you drain the battery completely, now you're running on range extender and you went to drive up Pikes Peak, it would default. It would go into reduced power mode.
Right.
Interesting. I want to go buy an i3 now.
There's
Excited about these. Oh,
So
and go ahead, Dom.
I was going to say there was just one other story that we didn't really touch on today that I think we should touch on. I think you missed it going by.
Sorry.
And that's the VF9 from VinFast.
I did see that. I saw this in your running order, and clearly my brain.
You just skipped right over it.
My brain's gone.
You care as much about the VinFast VF9 as the rest of the American public.
Oh,
apparently.
sorry about that. I did see this in your running order. Yeah, no, I totally
Or
skipped
possibly.
over it. What an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of odd, right? Because they've got this 3-row SUV. It's the second vehicle in the U.S. Tom, did you get any invitation to a first drive for the VF9?
I didn't. No.
I don't know. I haven't seen any reviews, any first drive. I don't know if they're what's going on over there. It's just now it's on sale. Now the deliveries are officially happening, and they've knocked the prices down by, I think, $17,000 or something in some cases.
Wow.
But it's got it does have 123 kilowatt hour pack, 330 miles of range. They say. I'm not sure what that'll be in the real world. It's on the 20-inch tires. They put 21-inch tires on it, and it goes down to 281. I think it was 291. The charging is not super fast, 10 to 70, 35 minutes. They don't even say 10 to 80 because I don't know if that's like just such a big difference compared to the rest of the vehicles on the market now. So I don't really know what's going on over there at VinFast. Maybe we should have Jeff Holland is their PR guy. And I actually met him, and he's a great guy. But it'd be nice to kind of learn more about the strategy, what's going on. I mean, yeah, I really don't know. They were going to build a factory here, and that's on hold. It's just kind of like a mystery wrapped up in an enigma kind of situation.
Yep. Well, they're
But who's going to buy this now,
any
though?
time and talk about VinFast, and they're just I think got some more funding from VinFast Group. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, the chairman of VinFast poured much more of his own money, and then VinFast, the overall, or Vin Group, I think, put a bunch of money in as well. And
another couple of billion, and he put about $1 billion in. So look, the money's big and it's well funded, and he wants to see this through as it might even be a personal thing that he wants to get done and have a car company. So I wouldn't write them off. They've got deep. He's got very deep pockets, and we'll make it happen if they want to. But no.
But looking at the 3-row situation now in the States, like the landscape has really changed over the last 6 months, right? Last week we had the Cadillac Vistic, 3-row. Are you going to buy this over that? This is a little bit cheaper, but okay, the Hyundai Ioniq 9, that was pretty nice. I don't know if this is any better. I mean, I kind of feel like the VinFast might have like more leather or something like the traditional kind of luxury kind of feel things going on. I don't know. I need to get into one and to see where they're at right now and see how it compares to the other things that are on the market now. And we have like the Gravity as well coming out, the Lucid Gravity, another 3-row that people should be pretty excited about. It's 3-row mania here in the US right now.
Yeah. Well,
I just let's pick on one comment for a second, which would be controversial. So, Robert, you're confused why anyone would buy any other EV other than a Tesla, and I'm so confused why anyone would make a statement like that. Maybe you could explain in the comment section why you would feel that way. It's kind of like, I can't understand why anyone wouldn't buy a Ford. There's a lot of choices. There's a lot of other vehicles out there. There's a lot of other really good vehicles out there from other brands that, Tesla makes some really good vehicles. I'm not saying Tesla vehicles are garbage, but to make like a blanket statement like that, it's really puzzling to me that people have that kind of, feeling towards Tesla vehicles. They make really good vehicles, but for instance, I bought an Equinox recently, leased it, and it's almost identical in size to a Tesla Model Y. It's exterior dimensions. It's nearly identical, very very similar, like within an inch, I think, of every dimension, and I'm much happier with it than if I would have owned a Tesla Model Y. And I know the Model Y is world's best-selling vehicle. Tons of people love them. I don't dislike the Model Y. I would take one in a second. I think it's a really good vehicle. But I like the Equinox better. I hate to tell you. The interior is nicer. It rides much better. It's much quieter. It's slower. But I'm not using my runaround compact SUV to drag race. It charges just as good as the Model Y as far as I'm concerned, because I charge at home 99.9% of the time. They both charge at 48 amps. The Model Y will DC fast charge faster than Equinox. The whole time I own the Equinox for 2 years, my lease, I might need to use a DC fast charger 5 times. Now, I will go to DC fast chargers more only because of what I do. I do recordings and so forth. But to actually need to go to one, maybe once every 2 or 3 months. And in that time, I might sit there for 10, maybe 15 minutes longer than I would if I had a Model Y, Advantage Model Y, but not that big of an advantage if it's a few minutes every 2 or 3 months. But overall, I like GM's package of the Equinox better, and it cost a lot less.
Yeah, it's very affordable.
So it's hard for me to understand, and that's just one little example there. But Tesla makes great vehicles. I'm not knocking Tesla vehicles at all. It's just hard for me to understand why people make statements like that, like nothing else is even worth considering. And I own a Rivian R1S. Take that any day over the week over a Tesla Model X. I mean, that's not even close. The Model Y Equinox comparison's a lot closer to me, at least, than saying, okay, here are these two large SUVs, Tesla Model X, Rivian R1S. You couldn't give me a Model X, and $10,000. I'd say no. I'll take the Rivian R1S. My Ford F-150 Lightning, I'll take it any day of the week over Cybertruck. Cybertruck's a cool vehicle. It's capable. It does a lot of things better than the Lightning. And
you've driven it.
The Lightning, I've driven it extensively. I've probably driven 2,000 miles in Cybertrucks by now. They do a lot of things good. Love the rear wheel steering. Love the steer by wire. But functionally, like the frunk is so small, it's useless. It's a joke. The frunk on the Cybertruck. And to me, having that large, lockable, safe storage up front is one of the biggest advantages of an electric pickup truck. So, I mean, and I'm not saying the Cybertruck isn't a good vehicle. It's a pretty fun, it's a cool vehicle. I can understand why people like it. But these blanket statements about why nobody should buy anything else I just can't I can't get my hands around that.
It's, certainly.
I'm not trying to pick on you, Robert. I'm just, that's
No,
why I said, and I see you're
you.
explaining here, explain, it's just like, it's kind of like, I can't understand why anybody would eat anything but vanilla ice cream. Mint chip's pretty good, chocolate's pretty good. Like, I don't get that hard line, like everything else sucks. You got to get a Tesla.
Yeah, and Tom has driven everything, and so he knows better than anyone the market that's out there. But and over here in Europe, by the way, not doing so well. Model Y is down 22%, 48,000 fewer Model Ys sold year to date than this time year to date last year. I was looking at the data today. Number one, Model Y has been overtaken by the Skoda Enyaq here in Europe in October. So again, look with Tesla numbers, level them out. Don't look at monthly data. You've got to look on quarterly. But we've got a big choice of Stellantis cars over here. Peugeots, Citroens, Fiats, and Alfa Romeos, all the Stellantis cars, the very compelling cars from Renault. Nissan, not so much, just the Aria on sale. But, you have a look at the Scenic and you want, or you're going to go for a 3-row. You want to be a family. You want to go and drive like the E3008, E508, 3-row, 100 kilowatt hour battery in that. And there's so many more compelling vehicles than what 5 years ago was the dominant thing, which was, hey, you should go buy a Tesla because it's the best thing. That's not no. I talk about eras of EV. We're over that era now of, well, Tesla's the only game in town, and in the US it is different. The market share's gone from 80 to 70 to 60 to 50, and as you get more choice, but the European market is way more saturated with smaller, more compact EVs than you have access to, and many of them are better than buying an entry-level Model 3, Model Y, or even a used one for the same price. And as Tom says, that's not to say that they're not very, very good and do some things better than anybody else. But there's now competition that are doing things better. And you need to go and cross-shop all of them and make your choice. And lots of people love the minimalism. I think we've come out of that phase now. If you look at the new bangers, which are going to be like the Kia EV3, that's going to blow up next year. They're going to sell every one of those they can make. They've got a nice little selection of buttons. It's subtle. They've put them back. They've put hard buttons for HVAC back on the car. Volvo EX30's done away with them and gone the Tesla way of just a screen to save money. But I think that era of Spartan, of getting rid of everything, decontenting everything, I think we're coming out of that in the second half of the decade. I think, you were never going to get that inside a Bentley or a Rolls-Royce anyway, or a Ferrari. And so what do those brands know about their customers? They were never going to go down the route of having just a screen. They were always going to have something tactile. And now that's coming around again to the rest of the market, the lower end of the market of, I don't like the way Tesla do it. And everything evolves. And then in 5 years' time, there'll be a new thing that everybody copies. And so it's really nuanced, Robert. And what was maybe the dominant thinking 5 years ago, which is go buy a Tesla. Just go buy one.
Oh yeah, and that made sense 5 years ago.
It doesn't apply it doesn't apply anymore. But that's not to say, because you can be two things at once. I know you can't be hot and cold at the same time, but you can both say Teslas are incredible, and there are other things around. So, but you can hold that. You can hold two thoughts in your head at the same time and be right with both of them. So it's not binary, Robert.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying you're trolling, Robert. I just wanted to pull that up for a second because you're not the only person I hear that from. I get a lot of comments like that.
A lot of people say this.
And it's just interesting to me that people, I think, sometimes feel that their wants, their desires, their needs are everybody's. So if I feel this way, then you should all kind of like, are you blind? Like, there's no other car that even comes close to this. But to other people, Robert, there are, and there's things that other vehicles do better. And of course, there's a lot of things that Tesla does the best. And I still think the Model 3 is probably the best value of a car you can get today overall for what it offers and what it costs and what it's capable of doing. I think the base Model 3 is just bulletproof. But not, when I went out to get my latest car, I wasn't looking for the greatest value that there was. I was looking for a specific type of vehicle that I wanted. And to me, the Equinox filled that, and that's just the latest vehicle that I got. I would have really considered the Volvo EX30 if it was available now. I would have really considered the Kia EV3 if that was available now. That I was looking for that type of vehicle, and Model Y crossed my mind for a second. And I have owned two Teslas. It's not like I haven't owned Teslas. I owned two Teslas for a combined like 4+ years. So I have a lot of experience with Tesla. They make really good vehicles, but the whole like it's Tesla or just go buy an ICE car, because there's no other EV worth your dollars. I think that's misguided because there's some really good electric vehicles out there. And yes, I have driven them all. I mean, maybe not all, at least 95% of the EVs on sale on the market today. I've driven extensively, not like driven them around the block, 100 miles. So, there's a lot of good EVs out there today, which is good. We should have choices.
We should. All right, let's hit the road. We've done a good one today. We've done a good one. 10 minutes over our time. We appreciate your time for watching, following, listening. If you're doing the audio podcast thing, thank you for that. Stay in touch with us on the YouTube show. Comments, questions, anything else you want to do. YouTube is probably the place to come and hang out in the comments section, at least if you're listening on a different medium, because then we can reply to you and it's nice and easy. If you like the show while you're there, hit the thumbs up because, then we'll get to 100,000 like Tom really quickly. Subscribe and tap the bell icon for notifications. Thank you all so much for joining us as always. Hey, Dom, say ciao.
Ciao.